Hi, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be starting to work with some more Git commands, and we're going to start to experience some of the more of the processes that we explained in the introduction to Git. So for example, adding and removing files to the staging area. We're going to go through all of that in this video. So first thing I want to do is go ahead and open up my project folder. And if you remember, in my software, or whatever you named your folder, I saved a path to the terminal, or for the terminal, so that I can get to this very easily through our Ubuntu shell. Now, like I was saying, you should know this if you're on Mac or Linux by now. You don't need to do this. You don't need to go to, your mount and then your C drive. You just need to copy the direct path from your from my software or to your folder from your root drive. So you just need to do that. It's quite easy. But for Windows users, make sure that you have this path. And like I said, I've already explained it. So just to clarify, you need something like this if you have the Ubuntu terminal. All right, let's get started. So before we move on, I just want to do one thing. And for naming convention, I'm going to rename this to path for terminal with dashes. So I'm going to path like this, path for terminal. And the reason I'm doing this is because once you add spaces to a file name, it becomes very difficult to work within the terminal. So this is just a common naming convention. If you've ever dug around software, source code, or files, you'll notice that a lot of them are lowercase and usually don't have spaces. So that's just something to keep in mind. There we go. All right, so now that that's done, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to open up my terminal and paste the path in. So I'm going to go CD and then right click. So it's going to take me up to my root, then to my mount, then C drive, and all the way down to my software. You can see that works perfectly. And there we go. So now I'm going to list everything we have here. And now that we have a Git repository initialized, we can actually start to work with our staging area. So I've already explained what a staging area is, but for those of you that maybe skipped through that video, it's basically the bundle of everything that you want to package in the snapshot. So all of the modifications you've made, the changes, everything like that. So we're going to be working with the staging area in this video. Now, if you want to check what your staging area looks like, all you have to do is type git and then status. This will give you something right here, giving you the status of your staging area. So it says on branch master, no commits yet, untracked files, use git add file to include what will be committed. So you can see that the staging area right now is empty and there's no commits. So you can see that we have an untracked file, which means it's not currently added to the staging area. It's not being tracked yet. So what we want to do is add this and then make our first commit in the next video. So I'm going to be teaching you how to add these to the staging area. So usually what would happen is you go through, maybe you add a new script, Python file, JavaScript file, whatever you're using. Maybe even you're just writing an essay and you just want to make backups. Remember, Git is not exclusive to tech. It can be used in almost anything. So let's just say you made some changes, maybe a few new files, and you want to start adding these. So one way to do it is to add each individual file. And the basic rule for Git adding is using git add and then the name of the file. So in this case, I want to add path for terminal.txt like that. Whoops, just going to erase that. There we go, just like that. And once you do that, and I do git status to see the staging area now, you can see that changes to be committed, there is path for terminal.txt. So now we've added the creation of path for terminal.txt to the staging area. So think of this as in the staging area right now, there is one change. We added a new file called path for terminal.txt. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is just touch a bunch of new files. So I'm going to do file.txt, touch script.py maybe. I'm going to make just a bunch of new files so I can prove a point of adding multiple files at once. So let's just think of another one, website.html, touch style.css. So if you don't need to know what these file names or extensions means, but you can see that there's a bunch of new files here. And if we go to git status now, let's see that. You can see there's a bunch of untracked files. Now, one way to do this is to go through and add each individual one. But we're not going to do that because it takes a lot of time. So what is one way to add all of these files together and put them in our changes to be committed? In order to do this, all you have to do is do git add and then dots. Now, if you haven't seen the dot notation anywhere else, it basically signifies everything or all, especially in regular expressions, it's used in that sense. So that's kind of where it comes from. Dot basically represents adding everything. So we're going to go and do that. Now let's check git status. And there you go. You can see in our staging area, basically what it's saying, we added 5 new files and then the names of each file. So there we go. Now, let's say I want to maybe remove some of these files or delete them. Let me just show you. So I'm going to delete my Python file and my cascading style sheet, my CSS style sheet. Now I'm going to go to git status. Now I didn't do it through the terminal, and you can see that it still says 5 new files, and that's because 5 new files were created and then 2 files were deleted. So what I can do now is commit these changes, git add dot. Now I do git status, and you can see that it says 3 new files, file.txt, path for terminal, and website.html. So there we go. Now you can see that we have added 3 new files. And remember, it's not saying 5 new files and 2 deleted anymore, because we added them to the staging area, so they kind of cancel each other out. But remember, if we made a commit, in that case, it would be 5 new files in one commit, and then we made another one saying we deleted 2 of them. But we'll get into the whole commits and how it works in the next video. Now, we deleted the files legitimately, and absolutely, we deleted them and put them in our recycle bin. But what if we want to not track the files? So we want to remove it from the staging area instead of deleting the whole file. This can be done for many reasons. For example, large automatically generated files, especially in game development, a lot of files are generated every time you open it. So many of them are not tracked because they take up a lot of space. And because you don't need to track them, you can go back in time and it will build and everything will be fine. A lot of them aren't tracked. Now we're going to be talking about not tracking them permanently in the next few videos with something called the git ignore. But if you want to remove it temporarily for any reason, all you have to do is type git rm and then the name of the file. In this case, I'm going to do file.txt. There we go. It says error, the following file has changed stages in the index. So pretty much what this is saying is that we've already put this file in the staging area, and the following file has changes staged in the index. So this is saying that we've already made changes and adding it, so removing it is going to cause some contradictions. Now the easiest way to get rid of this error is to do git rm and then -f to force remove it, file.txt, and there we go, it's gone. So now if I list it, sorry, not listed, I'm going to check the status actually. You can see that we have our new file, path4terminal.txt and website.html. So there you go. We can see that it is working fine, but we can also see that where did our file go? And well, it just disappeared. We went to remove it from our source control, not completely. So pretty much this is the problem with force removal. What this does is just completely wipe out the file.txt. So how do we get around this? I'm going to make a new file, same one, file.txt. Whoops, I made an error there. And now I'm going to add it to our source control. Now I'm going to check the status. Alright, so now that we've, deleted some of our files, we've messed around with the staging area a little bit. But the deleting that we did was actually deleting the files. What if we want to just remove it from the staging area? Well, it's actually quite simple, and it's right up here. Use git rm --cache, the flag, and then the file name to unstage. Very simple and very easy. So let's say we don't want to track this file.txt. This can be for many reasons. For example, it's automatically generated, so you don't really need to track it because it can be rebuilt at any time. This is especially done in game development, and there's just many different reasons that you want to do this. But if you want to, all you have to do is git rm --cached, because normally git remove will remove the file entirely. So you want to do --cached, and then you put the name of the file. There we go. Now let's go ahead and check our Git status. So there we go. Now we have our 2 files being tracked, 2 new files, but then we have 1 untracked file. So there we go. That's very simple, and we have basically untracked it. And this will continue to be untracked until we commit. So there you go. That's basically what I wanted to cover in this video, removing files and just doing all of that. So in the next video, we're going to actually go through taking the staging area changes, adding, removing files, unstaging them, and then we're going to actually bundle it all up together and put it in a commit. So I'm going to teach you how to do that in the next video. All right, let's move on.